how do you think OTC solutions have impacted and will continue to influence the hearing industry, just in
Yeah.
your opinion?
Yeah. Well, I wish I had a crystal ball, right? And if I did, I'd probably choose the winning lottery numbers for this week's Powerball or something. But that'll have
Should
to
have
wait
did
for
that a
another
while
day.
ago with the
Yeah,
$1 billion one that came out.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. But I think it's fair to say, and this is just stating the obvious, that the FDA ruling, created a lot of interest for all sides of, the hearing industry, right? Professionals of the industry, and depending on who you talk to, consumers as well, right? Personally, I feel the jury's still out on the ultimate impact that OTCs will have. I think it's safe to say that it's created additional awareness of hearing aid treatment options overall for consumers. But that said, I think there's varied opinions on the impact of OTCs on traditional hearing aid sales. So for example, some of the recent reports I've read suggest that OTCs have had little to no impact on traditional hearing aid sales since they've been officially available. And others have suggested that, OTCs are really not selling at this point to the level anticipated. But on the flip side of, again, read the other perception that here the HIA data or Hearing Industry Association data isn't really capturing the full story, and that low-cost OTC providers may in fact be prospering. So it's early days, right?
Yeah.
Opinions vary, but I think it's fair to say those in the market for OTC devices, they're likely an entirely different consumer than those in the market for traditional hearing aids. And I'd say there's going to be enough patients in the traditional category for clinics to survive and prosper. So another way to think of it is we, arguably weren't likely to see patients who are at the beginning stages of their hearing aid journey with mild to moderate hearing losses. So they are likely going to start out in an OTC category anyways.
Right.
And we wouldn't necessarily see them right away, or at least until years later. So perhaps, OTCs are a gateway to more clinical growth and an opportunity to engage with patients sooner. I think ultimately time will tell. But, the good news is there's always going to be a place for traditional best practice clinical care. And some patients just will never be candidates for OTC hearing aids. And
Yes.
even those that can potentially benefit from clinical services, I think you're always going to have a place for the traditional device, the need for professional care, and OTCs are just kind of opening up the offerings to patients. And again, time will tell. I've been involved in the audiology industry for a number of years now. I think it's over 26 or around there, somewhere around there. But I've really been blessed to work with many wonderful patients and colleagues in various clinical research and industry roles. But if I was to try and kind of pick something and focus, say, through the lens of verification, one exciting thing was just being part of the team that developed and launched the first Verifit system back in 2001. So some time ago, but that really represented the first time that real speech, was available in a verification system, clinically friendly test system. And I can still remember the excitement of clinicians, upon the first launch at conferences as people kind of ventured over and took a look at this odd-looking product. Because before that, it was the the black suitcase, right? The ARM 500. And then, as they kind of started to understand the capabilities and hearing, speech being played out of the equipment, which, ultimately is right the gold standard test signal for verification. And before that time, that wasn't really something that was clinically available in the system. And before that, it was really just all swept tones and dynamic roving pulses and composite noises, where we were trying to predict speech output. And then here we were launching the first clinical test system with speech with great success. And so I think as a result, the carrot passage has become quite well known globally and has been associated with the company with a Before that time, I thought a carrot was orange, but apparently now it's reddish yellow. I mean, who knew? But
And it's a member of the parsley family.
it's part of the parsley family as well. Yeah.
That's
So
what patients
educational,
always
yeah.
say. They're like,
Yeah,
"Oh, I didn't know it was a member of the parsley
yeah,
family."
that's right. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, it was just kind of great to be a part of that team. Just so many people that were involved in that. I was just kind of a small little piece. Uh, but again, a big impact. And from that, the company's really just grown exponentially. And now we're with the Verifit2 system that we're talking about
Mm,
today. I do think there's a lot to be excited about, for hearing healthcare professionals. I mean, off the top, one aspect is the ongoing demand and need for, hearing healthcare professionals and audiologists going forward, right? If we look to
mhm,
demographic trends and people are living longer, we see with an aging population, there's an increased prevalence of hearing loss. And I think, it's quite clear that hearing care professionals will be very much in demand. The challenge I think we're going to see is just making sure that we have enough of us
mhm,
to fill the pipeline to meet this ever-growing demand. And I think there's been some interesting recent work and analysis lately, workforce data from Victor Bray and Amina Blani, for example, and others that kind of speak to this challenge. The other thing that kind of makes me excited is some of the recent data we've seen from the Achieve study with
mm,
Franklin and his colleagues that support the positive impact that well-fitted hearing aids can have on or may have on the occurrence of cognitive decline and dementia. And so I think data from studies like that one and others are only going to increase patient interest in seeking out care from audiologists and other hearing care professionals sooner. Um, and then, of course, we have all of the advancements in technology, right, that continue to occur in our field. Um, from diagnostic tools to hearing instrument capability to rehabilitation tools. I mean, these all for me support the belief that audiologists and other healthcare professionals are going to be able to make an ever increasing positive impact on the lives of those with hearing loss. So, in our space, for example, on the verification side of things, we've
mhm,
seen recent developments of new tools that make verification easier and more efficient than before. And I guess our hope is that would then make it, uh, the case that it would be used more frequently, and that more patients will be able to experience the benefits of verification. So we've come out over the past few years with new software-assisted probe tube placement tools. We've seen developments in the verification area around automated fit to target tools, auto REMFit. Our phrase being Verifit Link is kind of our version of that. There's been ongoing improvements in simulated real ear measurements in the test box, which historically are thought of as more of a pediatric application, but I see a lot of value across the age range, even with adult and geriatric patients for pre-fitting purposes, for example. And so the venting correction, for example, that we developed recently, this is just one more additional benefit and a new technology enhancement that's come around. Just again, to name a few things that have happened recently.
mhm. Yeah, and I think again, just circling back to, OTCs in general, just we're having a lot of really great conversations about how we can differentiate ourselves and then also just get back more to our roots and also, with verification and providing our clients with other services as well. So I think in general, I think I'm really excited about where the hearing industry is going and where audiology is going, and I think it's going to be a great time for us. Just circling back to Audioscan, so you talked a little bit about the probe tube guide and things like that. Are there any other updates that are people that use Verifit 1 or Verifit 2 or any of your products need to be made aware of right now?
Yeah, good question. Well, it may go without saying, but we continue to develop new features and technologies to kind of further enhance verification capabilities for the industry. And Um, I think I wouldn't be giving too much away if I say, you know, in the not too distant future, we're going to see some enhancements to our bone conduction device verification tools, including some new capabilities for our skull simulator. Um, we're also continuing to enhance and develop Probe Guide, which you kind of just mentioned a moment ago, which is our software-assisted Probe 2 placement tool. So we're actually actively working on enhancements to the algorithm for use with a wider range of patients. So now including data and validation with pediatric patients specifically. And then there's some other, you know, work, some other developments that I can't mention right now, but I think uh, just stay tuned, let's say.
Great.
um, but you know, beyond that, you kind of touched on Verifit1. I think maybe just for a moment, just to mention, because you know,
Mhm.
as I mentioned earlier, right, that was something that was developed back in 2001, so it has been a product that has served many clinicians well, served Audioscan well, but we're at a point in time where support for the Verifit1 is coming to an end at the end of 2023, with the last, you know, produced units now over 10 years old. So we've come to the end of their life cycle as far as available repair parts and available software support. So I'd suggest, you know, any owners of Verifit ones, if you have any questions as far as the implications of end of support at the end of 2023, feel free to reach out to your local E3 representative or to Audioscan's head office at support@audioscan.com if they have any additional questions. And we also just to be aware, we do have some trade-in promotions available as well for those with Verifit ones if they want to trade those Verifit one systems in for an upgrade, for example, to a Verifit 2. That is a possible scenario. So